What's going on, everyone? Seth and Miranda here for Adorama TV in our new live streaming space that we're building. It's a work in progress, but as you can see, we got a nice green screen going on, and I'm gonna put Fernando to work by, Fernando, this doesn't, no. Much more my vibe. All right, today I am here with the brand new Panasonic Lumix BGH1. So we're gonna cover everything in this camera from front to back, and before we go look at it in-field application with our buddy John Luna, let's cover everything that's in hand right now. I mean, we're looking at a box camera, and the form factor is kind of like the biggest thing you notice about this. There's a lot more to it, but what's that form factor good for? Well, production spaces. We're in the age of self-broadcasting, live streaming, self-publishing, right? That's what everybody's building out right now, is creating more and more of a production space for them to engage, create the content that we're putting out there. And I feel like Lumix has really answered a lot of the issues that have been coming up with people trying to Frankenstein a lot of setups together. This is a really good solution for what's happening right now. And with the form factor being so small and it being basically a production-based camera with not having an EVF or anything like that, but able to bring a signal out of it via Ethernet, SDI, HDMI, USB, all these different options, but it's also able to not only send the signal to one place for something like switching, when you can set about 12 of these cameras all at the same time via Ethernet. And over Ethernet, you can just do video, AC power, and remote control of the camera just from that one cable. But now, let's say I want to set up a monitor to see what's going on with this feed. Well, while it's feeding out to the switcher for the broadcast itself, it can feed out to a monitor for my talent to see what's going on, confidence monitor, something like that, or even to a client somewhere else for them to view what's happening during the feed. All this stuff is issues that have been coming up with other systems and having to get different, adapters and splitters and all sorts of things. Well, it seems like Lumix took that all into account right here with the BGH1. All right, so let's just get into it. The sensor. We are talking about a 10.2 megapixel micro four thirds sensor, obviously a micro four thirds mount, lots of glass options out there. And to speak to the body a little bit more, you are able to grip this in basically infinite amount of ways, which is great for self-broadcasting in the production spaces I just mentioned, getting into small spaces with the form factor, but also having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 quarter 20 mounts on this thing is great. You can get it onto arms, tripods, you can screw it into clamps with quarter 20 adapters, all sorts of options to get this in your rig however you need it to get in there. Now, they also even came up with a little bit of details like a lock, so you can actually set up your production space and walk away with confidence knowing that nothing else is going to walk away from that production space. We have a fan in body and vents on both sides. I know that heat issues is like a hot topic right now. Okay. But with these vents and the fan, you can rest assured that you can have nice long record times, long stream times, right? That's even more important because that's where you really run a camera for a long period of time, is just talking to it in a broadcast. A lot of you Twitch people out there go for hours. Well, this might be a nice solution for you as well. And don't forget, along with those long record times and long live streams, you're gonna need power, right? Consistent, constant power. And that's where you got this nice DC input right here. But if you want to take it out into the field with some run and gun, you got those legacy batteries, the Panasonic camcorder batteries that we've all known forever. Well, they go right here with the BGH1. That's great, you have all these battery options for power out there in the field, but what about all the data you're recording? Well, in body, you have dual SD UHS-2 V90 card slots, which is great. And don't forget external recording via the SDI out and HDMI out. You have all these ports, use them. In fact, let's go check in with John Luna right now and see what happened out there in the field using the BGH1.
What's up, everyone? My name is John Luna, and I'm a cinematographer from the Bronx, New York. I had an awesome opportunity to test out the Lumix BGH1. I shot with it for about a day, and I'm going to share my perspective using the camera as a run and gun shooter and a GH5S owner. The BGH1 is very similar to the GH5 and GH5S, specifically in how they perform, but it's a step up as a cinema camera with how it's built and some new capabilities. I'm going to run down a list of key features and then talk a little bit about my experience using the camera. Just like the GH5 and GH5S, the BGH1 is a micro four thirds camera, which is great if you already have a camera in the GH line, and also because micro four thirds cameras are very adaptable to many types of lenses. Like the GH5S, it also has dual native ISO, 400 and 2000. Vlog comes pre-installed, and it can also shoot in HLG. It shoots in 10-bit 422 up to 400 megabits per second. It can shoot in Cinema 4K 60 in 10-bit 420. It can shoot in 4K anamorphic. It can shoot up to 240 frames per second in HD. Panasonic says it has 13 stops of dynamic range. It has dual SD card slots. Of course, it has unlimited record time, like all previous Lumix cameras, and it doesn't overheat. It takes the XLR adapter through the hot shoe mount. The BGH1 has improved autofocus with face, eye, head, and body recognition. I never use autofocus on the GH5S, but after testing the autofocus on the BGH1, I was really impressed. It can output SDI and HDMI simultaneously. So about my experience shooting with the BGH1. It was overall a smooth experience. As a GH5S owner, I felt right at home with the mini system. The only thing that took some getting used to was exclusively using the button wheel and using the custom function buttons in front of the camera to change exposure and white balance. The BGH1 is really small and lightweight. Panasonic says that it's 17% lighter than the GH5S. But you also have to rig out your camera with at least a monitor, as it doesn't have a display on the camera. On top and on the sides of the camera, there are 9 1/4-inch screw holes, and I used 2 of them, one to mount the Ninja 5, and one to mount my shotgun mic, the Sennheiser MKE600. I filmed a few things to test out some key features that are important for run and gun shooters. I tested dynamic range, high frame rates, autofocus, and low light. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough time to do a proper project, so I had my friend Christine come out and she helped me film some stuff that's close to real-world scenarios. The first test was dynamic range, and I positioned her in a way where I could see the difference between the sky and the shadow side of her face. I would have preferred to test the camera on a clear sunny day, so I purposely shot under a highway so that the shadows can push the camera a little bit harder. Compared to what I was seeing on the monitor, I got more shadow information than I was expecting. And in all of the examples, I was able to keep most of the information in the sky. Very little of it was actually clipped. To test the high frame rates, I filmed in Cinema 4K in 60 frames per second, and I also filmed at 120 frames per second, 180 and 240. The autofocus is what really impressed me the most. With face and body tracking, it tracked Christine in real time. I set the focus speed to normal, and you can see how organic it looks when it's pulling focus. Even as Christine was walking away, the body tracker did a really good job of staying with her. And I didn't make it easy for the camera either, because there were a bunch of people going in and out of frame. I know that with the limited time, I wasn't able to maximize the autofocus potential, but from what I experienced, it was really impressive. Similar to the GH5S, it also did really well in low light. I would max out at like 12,800. Up to that point it's still very usable. For a clean image, I feel good going up as high as 6400 ISO. And even at 12,800 it's very usable. I tested the ISOs in low light from native ISO 2000 all the way up to 12,800. Even though your cameras can go really high in ISO, it's always better to look for light and film around it. And the last thing I'll point out is that because the camera is so small, I was able to throw it on my Zhun Crane V2, which is a relatively old model that doesn't carry much weight, and it was able to carry it just fine. I want to thank Adorama for this opportunity, and I also want to thank Christine for coming out, and Zach Cooper for shooting BTS.
All right, thanks, John. So yeah, if you guys have any questions for us about experience with the Panasonic Lumix BGH1, hit us with a comment down below. We'll do our best to respond to it all. Don't forget to like, hit subscribe, and the bell for more videos like this. Share this video around, of course, if you know anybody that's been looking for a nice box camera. And we'll see you guys next time. Later. Right?
It's a box.
It's a box. It's a camera in a box.
And that's
That's the Easter egg. Great. Fantastic.